In the winter of 1799, George Washington stood alone on the balcony of Mount Vernon. Moonlight danced on his silver hair, while the distant whispers of the Potomac River seemed to recount the epic tale of his life. As the 84-year-old patriarch surveyed the estate he had shaped with his own hands, the silhouettes of slave quarters flickered in the shadows of trees, unlocking a flood of memories that carried him back to a boyhood steeped in tobacco scents and restless ambition. In 1732, on Augustine Washington's Virginia plantation, enslaved men and women bowed under the weight of tobacco plants. The first time young George accompanied his father on a tour of the fields, he witnessed a slave boy tuck a tattered surturban beneath his shirt. His father's whip cracked instantly, and the boy's cry of pain scattered crows from the treetops. In that moment, George's nails dug into his palms as he stared at the sprawling mountains in the distance, suddenly craving a world beyond the reach of such cruelty. His mother, Mary, ruled with a rigid hand, her expectations a cold measuring rod for every step he took. When he devoured Tom Jones in secret, she snatched the book away, scolding him for idleness. Only his half-brother Lawrence's study offered refuge. There, tales of Hannibal's crossing of the Alps in yellowed military tomes ignited a fire in his soul. In 1746, at 14, George polished Lawrence's sword in anticipation of joining the Royal Navy, dreaming of sailing the seas like a knight. But Mary's refusal shattered his fantasy, leaving his aspirations to drown in the Potomac's currents. In the winter of 1753, a 21-year-old Washington rode through the Allegheny Mountains, snow whipping his face. The distant glow of French forts flickered in the night as he clutched the governor's missive, his knuckles white. When the French commander sneered and tore the letter to pieces, Washington's rage simmered. A lesson in the fragility of diplomacy without force. When Lexington's guns ignited the Revolutionary War in 1775, Washington was pruning grapevines at Mount Vernon. His hand brushed Lawrence's sword, as if he could hear his brother's ghost shouting from the battlefield. As Congress named him commander-in-chief, he stood in Philadelphia's hall, gaze fixed on the fluttering Liberty Tree banner, and thought of the enslaved boy with the hidden book. This war, he vowed, would not just free the colonies but ignite hope for all the oppressed. At Valley Forge's frozen encampment, Washington wrapped his threadbare cloak tighter as he walked among frostbitten soldiers. A young man with bleeding feet smiled up at him. "Spring will come, General, and we'll send the British back to the sea." Washington turned away, blinking back tears. By candlelight that night, he wrote, "The price of freedom is steep, but for the laughter of future generations, we must endure." Victory at Yorktown brought no peace to Washington's soul. As crowds cheered, he saw enslaved men still in chains and staggered under the irony. Martha, his steadfast companion through war, squeezed his hand. "Perhaps it's time we act," she murmured. His grip on hers tightened, a lifeline in a storm of doubt. In his 1799 will, Washington's hand trembled as he penned the words, "Upon my death, all slaves shall be granted their freedom." Now, on that final night, he stood at Mount Vernon, watching candlelight flicker in slave quarters. The moonlight softened the scars of war on his face. His life had been a tapestry of contradictions, but in this moment, he found solace. The Potomac's rhythm continued, as timeless as liberty's struggle. George Washington closed his eyes, and in his final dream, he saw the enslaved boy reading beneath a sunlit sky, the mountains no longer a barrier to the wind of freedom.